Episode 9, The Final Reckoning. Prologue, The Gathering Storm. The strongest chains are not forged in fire, but woven from ambition and fear. Last words of Sebastian before his fall. Metropolis X stands on the brink of annihilation. The Tournament of Shadows has revealed the true players in the deadly game for the Crystal of Fallen Souls. As armies gather at the city's gates and ancient gods awaken, the fate of the world will be decided in a single, cataclysmic confrontation. Chapter 1, The Tournament's Final Round. Location, Arena of Forgotten Kings. The air crackled with magical energy as Azrael and Kael Draven faced each other in the arena's center. The Crystal of Fallen Souls pulsed between them, its dark light casting long shadows across the blood-stained sand. "You don't understand what you're playing with, old friend," Azrael's voice echoed through the silent arena. "This artifact nearly destroyed our world once before." Kael Draven smiled, his eyes glowing with unnatural light. "I understand perfectly. I've been searching for my son's legacy for 20 years. This crystal belongs to Garrick by right of blood." The revelation shocked the spectators. Garrick, watching from the champion's balcony, felt the crystal call to him. As he stepped forward, the arena trembled, the magical barriers containing the crystal began to fail. Key moment, Garrick touches the crystal and merges with it, becoming the new vessel for the fallen souls. His eyes turn completely black as ancient spirits flow into him. Chapter 2, The Breaking of Alliances. Location, Sebastian's Palace. While the tournament reached its climax, Sebastian made his final move. He activated the ancient mechanism beneath his palace, the Babel Tower Protocol. "If I cannot rule this city, then no one will," he screamed as Lady Isolde confronted him. "Father, stop this madness," Isolde pleaded, drawing her sword. "You're destroying everything." Their confrontation was interrupted by Evangeline and Dominic, who burst into the throne room with their allies. But they were too late. The palace began to transform, stone shifting and reforming into a towering spire that pierced the heavens. Key moment, Isolde makes the heartbreaking choice to strike down her own father, but the Babel Tower continues rising without its master. Chapter 3, The Waters of Chaos. Location, River Styx. Arthur Waterhill stood knee-deep in the polluted waters, facing the manifested form of Euchelon. The water god appeared as a towering figure of swirling debris and dark energy. "Your ancestor bound me to these waters, little rider," Euchelon's voice bubbled from the depths. "Now you will release me." Arthur felt the dragon blood within him awaken. Across the river, Nerthus the waterhound howled as Mirieli and her priestesses began their chant. But their ritual was interrupted by Seraphina, now fully possessed by Valakur's spirit. "The waters will run red with blood today," she screamed, her body transforming into a hybrid of woman and dragon. Key moment, Arthur makes the ultimate sacrifice, allowing Euchelon to possess him temporarily to gain the power needed to defeat Valakur Seraphina. Chapter 4, The Price of Power. Location, Black Hope Temple. Helena Dry stood at the convergence point of two worlds, the time crystal floating before her. Gale Blackthorn lay dying at her feet, his life force nearly depleted from containing the black magic. "Take it, Helena," he gasped. "Use our combined power to stabilize the dimensions." Tears streamed down Helena's face as she saw the spirits of both worlds tearing at the fabric of reality. Ian, the time spirit, appeared beside her. "The choice is yours, child. Save one world and lose the other, or sacrifice yourself to save both." Helena made her decision. She took Gale's hand and channeled all their combined magic into the time crystal, causing it to shine with impossible brightness. Key moment, Helena and Gale merge with the time crystal, becoming eternal guardians of the balance between worlds but losing their physical forms. Chapter 5, The Final Battle. Location, Metropolis X City Center. The battle raged across multiple fronts. At the Babel Tower, Dominic fought alongside Songwood the Dragon and Diane the Fallen Archangel against Valter's undead army. Damien, now fully embracing his vampire nature, carved through skeletons with supernatural speed. At the river, Arthur, possessed by Euchelon, battled Valakar Seraphina in a clash that created tidal waves flooding the city districts. At the arena, Azrael confronted the crystal-possessed Garrick, trying to reach the human within the godlike being. Evangeline coordinated the defense, her strategic genius the only thing keeping the city from complete collapse. But the cost was high. Damien fell protecting Dominic from Vladimir's ambush, his last words a vow of eternal loyalty. Key moment, Azrael realizes the only way to save Garrick is to absorb the crystal's power himself, knowing it will condemn him to the abyss. Chapter 6, The Sacrifice. Location, Peak of Babel Tower. Azrael stood at the highest point of the transforming tower, the crystal of fallen souls now merged with his being. Dark energy swirled around him as he began the final ritual. "I failed this city once before," he shouted into the storm. "I will not fail it again. Ilion, hear me. I offer myself in exchange for this city's salvation." The sky tore open as Ilion, god of light, appeared in all his terrible glory. "You would take their punishment, traitor? So be it." A beam of pure light struck Azrael, purifying the crystal but destroying the fallen angel in the process. As he dissolved into light, the Babel Tower began to crumble. Chapter 7, A New Dawn. Location, rebuilt Benentis Fortress 1 year later. The city had been rebuilt, but scars remained. Dominic, now missing an eye from the final battle, stood on his fortress walls watching the sunrise with Songwood. In the city below, Isolde ruled as the new president, with Garrick as her advisor, the young man finally free from the crystal's influence but forever changed by his experience. Arthur had become the new high priest of Lyran, the waters now clean and pure under his care. He felt Euchelon's presence still within him, a constant struggle between order and chaos. Helena and Gale existed as spirits of balance, their presence felt in the gentle winds and stable magic of the recovered city. Epilogue. Evangeline visited the memorial built where the Babel Tower once stood. She placed flowers at the base of Azrael's statue, her own magical powers gone but her wisdom intact. "You saved us all, old friend," she whispered. "We will make sure your sacrifice was not in vain." As she turned to leave, she noticed a single black feather lying at the statue's base, a reminder that some bonds transcend even death. Chapter 8, The Twilight City. Metropolis X existed in perpetual dusk, the sky frozen in shades of violet and bruised orange. The air carried the scent of ozone and cold ashes. Evangeline walked through the rebuilt city center, her footsteps echoing in the unnatural silence. The Aetheryon fire in her veins pulsed in rhythm with the city's dying heartbeat. She found the memorial park where the Babel Tower once stood. The statue of Azrael had developed hairline cracks that glowed with faint, blue energy. As she approached, the ground trembled slightly. "He's not gone, you know." Evangeline turned to see Cale Draven leaning against a broken pillar, his mechanical arm sparking. He looked older, his face lined with fresh scars. "The crystal didn't destroy him," Cale continued. "It transformed him. Just like it transformed my son." "Garrick is recovering," Evangeline said, her voice tight. "He remembers nothing of being the crystal's vessel. Or so he claims." Cale's good eye narrowed. The boy's eyes still turned black in his sleep. "The nurses are too terrified to enter his room after dark." Their conversation was interrupted by a scream from the medical ward. They arrived to find Garrick floating 6 feet above his bed, his body surrounded by swirling shadows. The room temperature had dropped to freezing. "The key, the gates are calling." Garrick's voice was a chorus of thousands. Ilior left something behind. Chapter 9, The River's Secret. Beneath the frozen surface of the river Styx, Arthur moved through liquid obsidian. The water no longer felt cold to him, it felt like home. Euchelon's presence coiled through his consciousness, a constant, whispering companion. "They fear what they cannot control," the water god murmured in his mind. "But you are becoming something new." Arthur found the underwater temple where Mirielli's priestesses had taken refuge. They floated in crystalline chambers, their bodies preserved in stasis. But something was wrong. The preservation magic was failing, and dark tendrils of energy snaked through the water. Nerthus, his water hound, whined and nudged one of the chambers. Inside, Mirielle's eyes opened, but they were completely black, and her lips moved in unison with Garrick's from miles away. The gates were never meant to be closed, she spoke through the water. Ilior's sacrifice only delayed the inevitable. The cycle demands completion. Arthur felt Euchelon stir anxiously within him. She speaks of the great current, the flow of souls that connects all realms. If it remains blocked, what happens? Arthur asked, dread coiling in his stomach. Reality will unravel from the seams, Euchelon replied. Starting with those caught between life and death. Chapter 10, The Echoing Scream. Helena drifted through the dimension where Ilior's final scream still resonated. The sound wasn't fading, it was growing, evolving into something with shape and purpose. She floated in a space of fractured timelines and broken memories, each shard reflecting a different possibility. Gale's spirit appeared beside her, his form flickering. The scream is creating echoes. Look. He pointed to a massive rift where multiple versions of the final battle played out simultaneously. In one, Azrael had won and become a dark god. In another, Sebastian's Babel Tower had succeeded. In a third, Ilior had survived but become something else. The figure in the ashen wastes, Helena realized. He's not Ilior. He's one of these echoes given form. Worse, Gale whispered. He's all of them. A convergence of every possible Ilior, every choice he might have made. And he's becoming aware. As they watched, the figure from the ashen wastes turned in one of the visions, his Azrael-like eyes seeming to look directly at them. He can see us, Helena breathed. He's learning, Gale corrected. And he's getting stronger. Chapter 11, The Ashen Wastes Awakening. The man who wore Ilior's face stood in the endless grey desert, black flame phoenix circling overhead. He called himself Karys, the name of the dead god that had once whispered to Ilior. Ash fell around him like snow, but where it touched his skin, it turned to glowing embers. They're starting to remember, he murmured to the phoenix. The girl in the rift, the water walker, the fire-touched woman. They sense the wrongness. The phoenix of black flame landed before him, its feathers shedding darkness. The gates must be reopened. The cycle must continue. Not just reopened, Karys corrected, his Azrael eyes gleaming. Remade. The original gates were flawed, limiting. We shall build new ones. He knelt and pressed his hands to the ashen ground. The waste began to transform, black crystal formations erupting from the soil. They pulsed with the same energy as the crystal of fallen souls, but refined, perfected. Ilior feared the fire within him, Karys said, standing. He never understood that the phoenix isn't just about rebirth. It's about purification through utter destruction. And what of the others? The phoenix asked. Karys smiled, a cold, sharp expression that Ilior's face had never worn. They'll join us or become kindling. But first, we need the key. The key was destroyed with Ilior. No, Karys said, his gaze turning toward distant Metropolis X, it was hidden in the one place we never thought to look. In plain sight. Chapter 12, The Unraveling Truth. Evangeline stood over Garrick's hospital bed, watching the young man twitch in his sleep. The shadows around him had coalesced into something resembling wings. He's changing, Kale said from the doorway. Becoming a conduit. For what? Evangeline asked, though she feared she already knew. For whatever's left of Ilior. Or whatever he's becoming. Suddenly, Garrick's eyes snapped open, completely black. He sat up, but the movement was wrong, unnaturally fluid. Evangeline, he said, and the voice was Ilior's, layered with something darker. The key wasn't destroyed. I hid it in the last place they'd look. Where? She whispered, her Aetheryon fire responding to the presence in the room. Garrick/Ilior smiled, and for a moment, she saw the man she remembered. In the one thing that survived Erenval's fall. The thing I carried with me always. He reached out and touched her chest, right over her heart. The Aetheryon fire within her blazed with sudden, painful intensity. The fire was never just fire, he said. It was the key, waiting for the right moment. Waiting for you to be ready. Then Garrett collapsed back onto the bed, the shadows dissipating. But Evangeline now understood. The phoenix flame Ilior had given her before his sacrifice, it wasn't just a parting gift. It was the literal key to the Gates of Rebirth, hidden in plain sight all along. Chapter 13, The Gathering Storm. Across the city, alarms began to blare. Arthur emerged from the river to find the water turning to black crystal along the edges. The transformation was spreading from the ashen wastes. In her dimensional prison, Helena watched as the figure of Karys grew more solid in every reflection. He's pulling the echoes together, she told Gale. Becoming real. Dominic stood on his fortress walls, Songwood the dragon stirring uneasily beside him. What is it, old friend? The dragon's response was a low rumble of fear. The dead are restless. They feel the imbalance. And in the ashen wastes, Karys raised his hands, the black crystal spreading around him in intricate patterns. The black flame phoenix circled above, its cries sounding like Ilior's final scream-given voice. Soon, Karys promised the gathering darkness. Soon the cycle will be reborn. Not as it was, but as it should have been. No more limitations. No more gods controlling who lives and who dies. He looked toward Metropolis X, his Azrael eyes seeing through the eternal twilight to the Aetheryon fire burning in Evangeline's heart. The key has been found. Now comes the reckoning. Chapter 14, The Phoenix's Choice. Evangeline stood before the memorial, the Aetheryon fire within her blazing so brightly she feared she would burn up from the inside. The key Ilior had hidden in her was awakening, and with it came memories not her own. She saw Erenval in its prime, the phoenix rider soaring through skies of gold and crimson. She felt Ilior's joy, his love for Aetheryon, his bond with his fellow riders. Then came the fall, the betrayal by the gods, the shattering of the gates, the death screams of phoenixes as they were extinguished forever. Only one survived, a voice whispered in her mind, Ilior's voice, but younger, free of the bitterness she remembered. Aetheryon and I escaped, but we were never the same. The fire became pain. The rebirth became a curse. Why me, she thought, tears streaming down her face as the memories overwhelmed her. Why give me this burden? Because you're the only one who ever understood, the voice replied. You saw that some systems are too broken to fix. Sometimes, you have to burn them down and start over. She felt a presence behind her and turned to see Karys standing there, the black flame phoenix perched on his shoulder. But he wasn't the cold, calculating figure from the visions. He looked sad. I'm not your enemy, Evangeline, he said, and for a moment, he was just Ilior again. I'm what he would have become if he'd had the courage to finish what he started. And what is that, she asked, the fire within her rising to defend against the threat. Karys smiled, and it was Ilior's smile, the one she remembered from better days. To give everyone what the gods denied us. True freedom. No predetermined fates, no cycles of suffering. Just choice. He extended a hand, ash falling around them like black snow. Help me build a world without masters. Help me complete the revolution the Phoenix Riders began. The Aetheryon fire in her veins surged, not in warning, but in recognition. And Evangeline realized the terrible truth, part of her wanted to say yes.
Chasing checks, we like diamonds, creating diamonds, deep in the pressure. Fuck it, I'm pressure.